By this point, you've either decided to leave your theremin alone and use the factory settings when it comes to the threshold, or maybe you've made an adjustment and raised that threshold a little further above the volume loop. To say that the threshold itself is that point above the volume loop that is at the edge of silence and noise is a good way to think about it, but it's an abstraction that's very little help when it comes to using it and working with it. For that, I think it's necessary to have a very clear physicalization. That physicalization is something that is so precise and so easy to picture that when you work at the threshold, it's almost a tactile sensation. It feels as if you're touching something and using it. And for that, I want you to visualize a string. And I've actually put a real string above my volume loop so that you can really see it. For me, the threshold I prefer is about 2 7/8 inches above the volume loop. That's about 7 centimeters above the volume loop. That, for me, is a place where I can be the most accurate, and it is the easiest for me to utilize. But the string itself, think of a string. It's very tight. It's a small area. It's very precise, and it's very easy to visualize. Anything above the string, below the string, in front of the string, or behind the string, if used, is going to give you poorer results than if you use that clear, precise visualization of a tight, thin string. Now you can see the string very clearly. The important thing to remember about this tight string and visualizing it is this. It's delicate and precise. It actually takes very, very little effort to make use of it. So when you think of the threshold at this stage, just think of the string and plucking it very, very lightly. That's all. Just pluck it. It's all it takes to use it. And it will also restrict your movements. You won't be flailing your hand around to find it. You'll simply locate it and give it a light pluck. That being said, I want you to understand that your threshold can be, as opposed to right up above in the middle of the volume loop, you need to experiment. As I've said in a previous lesson, you need to experiment and find where the threshold is strongest. It could be out towards the end of the volume loop. It could be further in. It's going to depend on your theremin. So now that we have the threshold, let's take the string away and make use of it. All right. Without the string now, visualize that threshold as clearly and precisely as if there were a physical string above that volume loop. Separate your fingers and use the 2 middle fingers. This will give you a more gentle motion. Locate the threshold and just give a gentle. That's it. That's all it is. Search around at the front of the loop, at the back of the loop. Search around to see if you can locate the cleanest, most precise response. Once you have it, experiment going backwards towards your body and away from your body, forward through the threshold. That's all there is to it. Now let's put working at the threshold to work. Before moving on, use 5 or 10 minutes of every practice to work at the threshold. Just get used to where it is now. Or, if you've left the factory settings as they were, be much more conscious of using that visualization and physicalization of a string that you can pluck. Once you feel very, very comfortable with working at the threshold, move on. Now you can really tackle what comes ahead in the extremes.